Welcome to Gotta Ping. I'm Mei Ping, the founder of Gotta Ping. As a next-gen leadership coach, I help high-performing young executives and entrepreneurs like you to navigate complex people and problems with top-notch communication and leadership skills to create sustained success. In today's podcast, I want to talk about the time I was an internal auditor and an internal control specialist with one of the biggest global payments company in the world, Visa. So this was one of the really fun roles I've done at that point in time because I got the opportunity to travel all around the world. With Visa, I've been to many parts of Asia, visiting the big cities, the different people, different cultures, different background. That was really something that I enjoyed in that role. And if you guys have been following me for some time now, I'm sure you know that I love travel. So this role with Visa really enabled me to fulfill both my personal as well as professional aspirations. So that was extremely exciting at that time. So I took on the internal auditor role because after spending quite a number of years in external audit, I realized that I did not really like numbers. So it was a natural progression for me to move towards an area that I felt that I was a lot stronger in, and that is internal controls assessment. So the opportunity visa came out at the right time. I was pretty much scrolling LinkedIn in 2013, came across this opportunity in the jobs section and proceeded to apply. So I got to join the company after it was about 5 rounds of interview. Some of which were face-to-face, the other were virtual phone calls or VC, which at that time was really quite a big thing, right? So what I definitely enjoyed in the internal auditor role, aside from all the travel and so forth, was that this role taught me how to really manage internal stakeholders. So in the past, when I was an external auditor and a regulatory auditor, it was a lot easier to request for documents, request for information, because I was an external party reviewing a company, right? So obviously, there were a lot of agreements on the back end on documents provision, and that was all fine. But as an internal auditor, I found that it was more challenging because you are not top priority, right? Everybody in the company has something to do. And yes, internal audit is something that the departments need to go through. But sometimes, in the business of it all, your stuff may not always be prioritized. And the second challenge around that is that internal audit is sometimes seen as a bit of a police function within the company itself. So while yes, we are all colleagues, but there is a certain perception given to the internal audit team. The fact that we are a bit of a police, we are supposed to catch errors, and we are, not part of the whole team, so to speak, right? At the massive company. So I found those two very, very interesting dynamics that I had to learn early on how to create win-win relationships, right? Getting along with people and creating win-win relationships, knowing that there is this negative connotation that people have on internal auditors. And obviously I was one, and I still wanted to make sure that I would do well. So those were the things that I had to really focus on. So how I came about this whole bit is really taking the time and having conversations with people and really understand where they're coming from, and not just really pushing the points through, because nobody likes to feel like they have to do something. Yes, we can still request for documents, and we can be polite, pick up the phone, give them a call, an email, and so forth. That was really, really helpful. But I think just knowing this concept that it's really important to create win-win relationships does really go a long way. So some of the more interesting experiences I had traveling with visa was I went to quite a number of Asia offices. For example, I was in Shanghai, in Tokyo, and I was in Sydney and many parts of Southeast Asia as well. So you start to see the intricacies and the differences between cultures and the locations, backgrounds in the way people approach meetings. Some countries are very precise. Like for example, in Japan, if the meeting starts at 10, the team would really be queuing up right in front of the meeting room, like at least 5 to 10 minutes before, and we would do all the pleasantries and so forth. But in some other countries, which I'm not going to name which one, it's a little bit more different. It's a bit more flexible. We all had to kind of make do around a frame in terms of like the times that we were going to commit to. So that was a bit of a difference, and it's really important to learn how to work with people from different cultures, because we are now in the era of globalization, and digitization has definitely helped that. So being able to get along with colleagues from different backgrounds and even being in different locations, whether it's face-to-face or if it's via webinars or video conference, it's all really important to be able to build that rapport, to be able to get along and communicate with one another. So that's something that I felt very fortunate to have been able to experience that at a very high level, and so many countries as well. When I was still an auditor, probably about 5 years into my career, 5 or 7 years down my career. So that was something that definitely I could take away. Of course, the fun part was I got to travel on a plane to work rather than the traditional bus or taxi or train, which was actually quite exciting. So yeah, I also learned, like personally for me, I learned how to become a minimalist, to not carry so many things, to plan my days, my week, and my work well, so that I could still have a bit of time after office hours to travel the city, to take a look at, to visit some of the attractions if time permits. So that was really the time of my life, I would say, from a travel perspective, because I've been to so many countries, and I've been to the San Francisco office for many, many weeks in a row, and everything was extremely exciting. The team was extremely welcoming. So I think Visa as a global organization is really one to beat for sure. So I found that my experience with Visa really prepped me for the next level, because I got to pick up all these very important skills that I would say that people in different departments do not necessarily get the opportunity to do so, right? The opportunity to learn how to navigate between priorities of different teams, different functions, even different countries as well, like different management, and being able to negotiate that and making sure that there is still a win-win outcome on both ends, while both departments, we still get to achieve what we need to achieve. And later on in my internal controls role, I got the opportunity to rebuild the second line of controls. And if you're in finance, I'm sure you know what I mean by this second line of controls. But it's just the effort and the strategic thinking and the outlining of the entire framework of how Visa would run their second line review and monitoring and testing, which my ex-boss is currently leading that massive team on. I thought that was extremely exciting, and definitely that prepped me into the role that I would join next, which was Standard Chartered, because that was what I spent most of my time doing, building frameworks and like making sure that the governance is strong. And yeah, I'll go into all of that in my next episode. But I would say that if you love travel and you want to work with people from different countries, seek those opportunities in your current workplace, whether it's an assignment, it's a project, or of course, if you have the opportunity to travel, right? Whether it's a training or even to live abroad, I would highly encourage that, because that is, I think, experiences with different cultures and different people is not really something that you would get very often, but it's definitely a very enriching experience. So that's something that you should definitely think about and just really work that out as to how you can make your career a lot more enriching. How will you make your career experience a lot more enriching that will make you a lot more valuable to your next employer? So I'll share a little bit more on how my exact experiences with Visa allowed me to join Standard Chartered almost seamlessly. I was actually headhunted to join one of the new team that was set up in Standard Chartered. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and I hope you got some insights from this episode, and I look forward to sharing more of my corporate career journey with you, and hopefully you guys can learn something. Looking forward, and we'll speak soon. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. If we have not yet connected, I look forward to connecting with you. You can find me on my website www.gottaping.com, on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. The links to my profiles are in this episode's description box. I can't wait for you to join me in the next episode of my Gotta Ping podcast. Till next time, bye!